Welcome to the Marriage Puzzle Podcast with Julie and Thomas Hobby. We are marriage coaches who help couples with pain points about money, intimacy, and communication go from being overwhelmed to being secure in their marriage.
If this is your first time listening to us, thanks for checking out our podcast. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and a review. Let's dive into this episode.
I'm so excited to be back in front of the mics. It's always been a minute with us, but for good reason, right?
Yeah, I think it's good reason.
Well, not good reason, I guess. It's just we had a big time lapse again. I feel like
we weren't just slacking off.
Yeah, that's where I'm always thinking, what are people thinking about us? What's going on with the hobbies? But I mean, let's see what was going on. I had surgery. Mm-hmm. Our toddler was in the hospital for a few days, needed oxygen. Just he's okay, but just those little
got a puppy.
Yeah, we got a puppy. Yeah. Which is a blessing, but it was unexpected, like the timing and everything. Yeah. So it's summer right now, so we have 4 kids and they're all home. And I had a job transition. Probably because of that, I decided to step away from an office job and be more home, like work from home, stay at home working mom. Can that be my title?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So just always lots going on. And so, of course, we want to get back to this regular podcast, but we first had to clean off the space and where we record because it got taken over by Lego. That's
the real reason we haven't recorded in so long, is because there were so many Legos on the floor we literally could not get to the microphones.
It's fun. Like we have a designated playroom in our house. Like that's just, when you have 4 kids, like that's just a need. It's not a formal dining room, it's a playroom. But the kids, like, they range from, our youngest is 2 now, he just turned 2, and then you said in a puppy, so we can't really have, like, small pieces out in the playroom.
Right.
So we allowed the Lego to come into our office, which is where we record, and it just, like, exploded in here.
Now we record in the Lego room.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it is.
Our oldest are 10-year-old twins, and they build a lot, and you do too. I want to be a Lego family, though, so we got our daughter into it. I need to start doing it more. But anyway, we cleaned up the room, and now we're recording, and I'm so excited because we didn't really, over-prepare for this one. We just wanted to get in front of the mics and say all that. Like, when we go through those, hard times in and out of the hospital or busy seasons or random things that happen, at the end of the day, I'm like, why are we okay? Like, why are you and I still in love? Like, how? And people ask us that, like, what makes your marriage work? And it's not this beautiful magic thing, like spend a lot of money or do all that. Like, it's just like a lot of practical stuff. So I thought it'd be fun. Right before we hit record, we literally both have a piece of notebook paper here, and we each I wrote 5 things. Did you write 5 things?
Yeah.
Like 5 things of how we would answer somebody. Like, if somebody asks us, what makes your marriage work? What are my 5 things? What are your 5 things? And what's fun is we don't know what each other wrote down. Yeah. So here we go.
I have a feeling we're going to be in the ballpark of each other, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That's why I'm like, do you want to go first?
No, go ahead. You go first.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
We'll go one at a time, back and forth.
That's fine.
See, we haven't even really planned this part, the structure of it. We're just going to kind of go with it.
That's okay. I can have an answer, but I don't know. I didn't really prioritize mine top to.
I didn't either.
So that's why I'm laughing.
No, they're not in like order of importance. Yeah. They're just, top 5 things.
Because mine's like super, super practical. You're going to laugh.
Okay.
Because I'm like, why does this make our marriage work? It's because we meal plan.
That's what you put?
I mean, he's like falling out of his chair. I didn't want to go first with that. I wrote we meal plan for the month. Like, I know a lot of people meal plan. It's one less fight. And I'll tell you why. Because we have this whiteboard calendar on the wall. So when it's nearing a new month, so if you're listening on live time, is July. So when it was coming up near July 1st, I take the whole thing down and fill in the new numbers, for the new month. And a lot of the meals that I've written down on there stay. So it's a lot of the same things each month.
Yeah.
So don't like overthink it, but I love it because I just take it down and then I can look at the calendar and we know when we're home and what meals we can do. And why I think it helps our marriage is first, I hated meal planning every week, so just taking that on like once a month and I'm done. And then everyone knows in the house what's for dinner, so it eliminates that question. It because they can see it on the whiteboard when I hang it back up. It helps because we order our groceries on a weekly basis, so anyone can do that. Like, you step in and do that because you know what the plan is. And so even if I'm cooking, like, you help with ordering food.
Yeah.
Or we even know who's cooking. And so even at the end, you know, it's like, oh, this night we have this, so Thomas is cooking or I'm cooking. Or that's why I put it, because it makes our marriage work, because we don't have to like talk about it, waste time, or fight about it, or spend extra money going out or grocery store because we didn't plan. Like, it just helps our marriage work.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I mean, some of those things, I'm going to go ahead and tell you my number one. Not my number one,
right?
Just the first thing on my list. It could be the number one, because I think this plays into yours. Good communication.
Okay.
So I went a little more high level.
That's good.
So maybe I was wrong at the beginning when I said.
Maybe I was hungry when I said meal planning, but communicate. That's what it is, even if it's just written.
It really is, because I mean, but in that there are certain things like we can dive into that a little bit more around communication, right? Because you talked about the whiteboard. The whiteboard is your domain. I don't touch the whiteboard. Like, at least I don't frequently mess with it. If we have to, swap a meal out or something.
Yeah.
That's why I love that system too, because it really allows us to see the whole month at a glance. And then we break down our grocery ordering into 1 week at a time. And if we order 1 week at a time, it's like, okay, we know we have our next 7 meals planned out. And so when we do that, it's like, something came up tonight. We need a quicker meal, not this longer cooking meal that we were going to have to plan, that we were originally planning for. It's nice and easy to just kind of swap things in and out. But it also kind of allows us to take, a glance at it from a monthly perspective and be like, you know what? We've got a lot of meals planned here in this week that are going to be just more complex, and it's just going to be a busier week. So let's sub a couple of those meals out before we make the grocery order. So that's that. We know, because we've been doing it long enough, that there are certain meals that are just yours to cook because I'm going to ruin them.
No.
And and then there are certain meals that are mine to cook, because they're easy enough for me, to not destroy.
But that's too, like, we're both contributing.
Exactly.
To that.
Exactly. And it's not just, you cook every meal, like, and then the grocery ordering too. I mean, typically in the standard marriage over the last 50 or 60 years, the wife was the one designated to do the grocery shopping and cook. And in our house, that's just different. We have 4 kids and a puppy. There's no way that we could survive just one of us doing both of those things. And we have to bounce those back and forth. We have to just pick up, when someone else has to, put it down and keep going. So I think that's where the communication plays in, is because we've been able to communicate well enough throughout our marriage. And I say good communication. Your marriage may not have good communication right now. That's okay. But it can get better. Like, you can take one step. This meal planning thing might be the one step that you can take to start that momentum towards good communication in your marriage. And so I think that's something that's really helped us, is just having that good communication. And when I say good, I don't want it to sound like, we're only communicating nicely and we're only, like, everything's always positive. It's not.
Right.
At all.
It's short and fast sometimes.
But it's adequate. It gets the message across. And, so we know the times and places for our types of communication. When the kids are up, it's not time for an in-depth conversation. In most cases. Sometimes it happens, and sometimes we just kind of have to fend the interruptions off a little bit to finish a conversation. But that's usually our time for, like, quick little conversations when they're up. And then we have our times when the kids go to sleep, or when we go out, or when they're at school, or when we talk on the phone on drive home from work, that's when we can focus a little bit more and get things, get some deeper communication going. So knowing your times and places of certain types of communication, that's important too, because you can't just want to have this like super deep conversation. We kind of, in our house, we kind of call it the witching hour, anytime between, 5 p.m.
It starts at 4:30.
Yeah, 4:30 when our toddlers start getting hungry, right before we're about to start cooking dinner. And, we're trying to, keep them out of the pantry to keep them from eating more snacks. And while we're about to cook dinner, and they're starting to get cranky, and
you're not home from
we're
work
getting
yet.
cranky because we're hungry too. And so we kind of call it our witching hour between like 4:30 and 8:30 typically, that is when just kind of chaos tends to ensue in our house. It just gets noisy. Things are happening. We're trying to cook dinner and get everyone situated, also ready for bed, bath time, all the things you got to do. And that's not the time you're going to want to come in and be like, hey, what you said last night was not okay with me. Like, first of all, you're attacking, but second of all, you're starting a deep conversation that isn't going to be able to happen. You're both just going to be frustrated. Could be an okay time to be like, hey, I'd really like to talk about something later with you after the kids go to bed. That way your wife or husband isn't blindsided by it, or I'd like to talk about the conversation we had last night, or I'd like to talk about this at a certain time. Give them a heads up. That way they can start thinking about it and getting in the right headspace for it. But that way you're not just like blindsiding them in the chaos or after the chaos. You don't want to drop that bomb on them when it's like, oh, you thought you were going to relax? Nope. Yeah. Sorry. So good communication is thinking through your communication strategically in a way that's going to make it effective.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of embarrassed I don't have that on my list. But yes, communication. I think because I take it for granted that we do have good communication, and I often forget that that's not easy for everyone. And so maybe that ties into my number 2. Again, man, mine are so practical.
That's okay.
But I think we have like good routines. So maybe that's like,
keep going. I'm smiling. I'm smirking routine over here because mine really are high level.
I know, and I get deeper as it goes. But yeah, mine. The second thing I wrote down, I put house routines. Like, we know who's doing the dishes, who cleans the bathroom, even the laundry is given a day. Like, we used to try to do laundry, all in one day. It was just chaos. And like, I think we've really gotten just our family in order now. We're not perfect. Like, there's still 6 of us, and there's still some special needs, and with the kids, and a lot of doctor's appointments, and just busy. But because of that, it's kind of then like forced us into having these routines, which then has maybe bettered our marriage. And so with that, I was saying, like, leaving laundry as a day. Like, on Monday, I know I wash this person's clothes, and then this Tuesday I do that. We kind of do it every single day, but one at a time, so it's achievable. So I don't have the house stress lingering. And then with those routines, we do know, back to your communication, we know when we talk. So now we know we're gonna sit down and do podcasts. We just, maybe put that on the back burner because we've been prioritizing our talk list. Yeah. And like, we just needed to like catch up with each other. But you kind of tell your calendar, and that's a money principle. You tell your money where to go. Like, we tell our time where to go, and we really hold that closely. And so we don't even make like outside plans without talking with each other, and we just all know the house routine and those talk times. And then we can go like, yes, we need to talk about this. We know our night routine is this, and then we can sit down and talk.
Yeah. Yeah. You're really good at setting the systems and routines in place, because I would not be able to survive like without those systems. Because I can't figure out what needs to come next. So that's really helpful for me. I think it's really good advice generally too. I mean, you don't have to be as structured as we are, and we're probably not the extreme end of time structured. We again, have 4 kids and a puppy. We know that we can't have everything, strictly planned out down to the second. Someone's going to trip and fall and skin their knee on the way to the car, and there goes 15 minutes.
This summer I learned that, because a lot of summers failed. When I put a time schedule down, like at this time we're having lunch, and this time we're having snack, and this time we're doing this activity, you set yourself up for failure. So this summer I have the structure of our day with no times. So it's just an order. It's like, hey, when we're done with this, we're going to move on to this, and we're going to move on to this. And then when you get home from work, you know where we are in this routine. And it's not like dinner has to be on the table at 5 or failed. Like, it's like, I'm still cooking dinner, but when after dinner, we do this, we do this, we do this. And so that has been better. And to relate it to marriage, I just think like that, what is it? Happy wife, happy life. Like, it's not that. I think it's just the family function. Mm-hmm. And so if you're married and you have kids, like, figure out what routines and house structure you might, need that would work for your family, that would then take the stress and fights out of your marriage. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't have kids, it's something to like still think about, so that that's not just a shock. When you're adding, their routines of just kind of like, because right now, if we took, the 4 kids aside, I still think like our night routine is still structured, just so we know what to expect when we're going to sit down and watch TV, when we're going to sit down and talk, when we're going to maybe do our own things and like have me time or go out with friends or together, like all that. And again, I don't want to sound overly structured. It's just something that we've shored up in the last couple of years, maybe months. Maybe adding the 4th kid needed that. And that's why I think even in a lot of chaos, it's what makes our marriage work.
Yeah. You caught me and ended your sentence as I was starting to jot down a note for notes. Later.
A love letter.
Yeah, that's what it is. You know better than that.
What's
with me.
What's the second thing you wrote down?
That's like in your wildest dreams, me writing you a love letter.
Yes.
This words of affirmation over here. Okay, so my number 2 is genuine apologies, and in parentheses, and true forgiveness. You can't have your communication be good without having true apologies, because your communication is going to suck sometimes. Like, it's just going to fall apart. We're humans.
Stress
we can be jerks sometimes. And so if your communication breaks down, someone's probably getting upset, and an apology needs to happen, and it needs to be genuine. And following that, or alongside of that, I should probably say, comes the true forgiveness, meaning like, once, like, if I'm the one who messes up and I apologize and then you forgive me, you can't then be like, fingers crossed behind your back so that you can then bring that up in a later fight. Right. Nope, like, that's gone. You forgave me for it. It's past. Like, we move forward. If it becomes a recurring problem, then a different discussion happens. But that's a podcast for a different day. But I think those two things like go together. Like, you can't really have
the apology and true forgiveness.
Genuine apologies and true forgiveness, because you can't just say you forgive them without it being true. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
you did that to me today, though. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
okay, let's hear this story.
I don't think I said anything. It was my face, man. I had an expectation in my head that I didn't communicate, even though you said we had good communication.
Rewind back to number 1.
That's why it's not on my list, because I may still be working on it. But I had an expectation in my head and that you didn't fulfill, and so my face was like, what? And you were like, whoa. And I apologized immediately, because I was like, wow, I realized there were no words exchanged here at all. And so I was like, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And you're like, yes. Like, you didn't go, but you looked at me like this, and you didn't like push and push and push, because I was like, I'm sorry for my face. you know.
Yeah. I got you. All right. Number 3.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
I keep going first, though.
You want me to go?
Yes.
Okay. Dates.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Gotta go on dates. You have to have dates. You don't have to go on dates. That's a point that I really want to stress and make clear. We don't go on a lot of dates. For some reason, it's hard to find babysitters for 4 kids
and a
puppy now. I don't know why. Like, we do it every day. We're asking for a few hours. Like, come on, y'all. And they want to charge a lot for it. Get out of here with that. So, you don't have to go on a lot of dates.
I'm glad.
You have to date, and you may have to get creative with it sometimes and do dates at home. So, yeah, you have to build in, like you were talking about routines, you have to build time with your spouse into your routine. We are together every day, and we spend a lot of time in the evening just lounging. Vegging. And so
like,
that's...
Oh, we survived. They're in bed.
Exactly. That's not a date. That's not always considered quality time.
Right.
Like, for me, I'm good with that from a quality time perspective. That's time we're together. But I think, for you, the quality time is more intentionally planned.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about this last night.
That's why I'm glad you actually went first that time, because that matches one. I worded it we prioritize each other, and then I have a sub point. Like, we do have weekly date nights, but that's not what it sounds like. We don't have the budget, the sitter, I guess the time, whatever excuses, to go out every week. But we prioritize that time together. Mm-hmm. So if the grandparent, because this just happened, offered for you, hey, you can go out. Like, the kids are all in bed, so it's like already late. If you can go out for an hour or something. What we do? We went to Old Navy to exchange stuff, like
for our kids,
like totally practical thing. And I said to him last night, I was like, that was so fun. Like, we turned it into quality time. It wasn't just an errand, a to do. It wasn't like a fancy thing or, dress up and go out for a date. We do that. We definitely try to spend the money and have those. But like those weekly, like that still counted as this date because we were laughing and picking out clothes, like just not talking about all the structured things and stress of life. We just have fun together. Yeah, but it can also be at home.
Speaking of, let's just add a little more into that date. We actually had a conversation that night as we were leaving, because we were like, was that really, like, did that count as a date? Mm-hmm. Like, don't we have to do a little more? And we're like, well, do you want to get dessert? And we both agreed, you know what? Let's not spend the money on dessert. Let's go home and have dessert at home. We'll relieve the babysitter, and then we'll have dessert at home. So
it was fun. It was just prioritizing each other, being intentional about it. But we were talking about this last night because we have another opportunity coming up this week that there will be a sitter. And I said, okay, what is that going to look like? Mm-hmm. Like, is that dinner and, for budgeting or getting dressed up? Or is it a more practical, like, or sometimes we'll just go out for dessert? Mm-hmm. Or is it a walk around the neighborhood? Or if you don't have a sitter, then we're like, okay, then it's going to be game night. So we're not just watching TV. Like, that's what I mean. You're saying date nights. I love that. And then where I worded it is prioritize each other. I also have like a sub thing, like frequent sex.
Sub? Oh, okay. I was like, a sub to your sub?
Yeah, because I'm just like, that's not, I don't know if that's one of your top 5 here, but because we prioritize each other, that's the benefit. Or because we prioritize each other, we prioritize that, and that helps our marriage too.
High five. That's my number 4.
Okay.
I mean, I just wrote sex. That's all I wrote.
Okay, yeah.
But
I just I'm gonna just squeeze it in here, but
that's my main I don't have sub points on mine.
Okay.
I do have a bonus one coming up that I thought of.
What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about that, or you want to move on?
No, let's talk about it. I think that that's one of our main three things. That if you've ever listened to one of our podcasts, you've heard us talk about money, sex, communication. Those are the three.
It's like the Instagram bio, I think, that we have for Marriage Puzzle.
Those are the three, overall, those are the three main, pedestals of a marriage. Yeah. And so, at least from our point of view. So, I think that, that's something you have to prioritize. And, you have to prioritize it in a way that it doesn't feel planned out. Mm-hmm. Prioritizing and planning are two different things. And we've said on other podcasts, there may be times where you have to plan it and schedule it to just make it happen.
Okay, Sunday night, we're doing this. Okay.
I think, I said something a little while ago in this podcast when we were talking about communication, about momentum. And as I'm kind of thinking about that a little more, different areas of your marriage can have momentum swings. And if you are kind of in a drought in the sex department in your marriage, then you've got to do something to get the momentum going back in the right direction. And so that means you may have to just put one on the calendar and schedule it, make it happen, and then build from there, every however many days, whatever works for your marriage. And I think the same goes for communication. You've got to find one thing to just improve your communication and build on that momentum. Because if the momentum swings the other direction, momentum is hard to stop.
Right.
And so once you get good momentum going in the good direction, which I think is how our marriage is in the communication department, we've got really good momentum there. And we've found our stride. We're not perfect. Right. I'm not trying to say that. But we've got good momentum moving in the right direction. And when we have those bad days or bad moments, it doesn't totally reverse, because our momentum is rolling so hard in one direction. It does one little hiccup doesn't send us in the other direction.
Exactly.
And so it may slow down, may stumble, but we're going to keep rolling forward because we've put the time in, we've built that up over time. And I think the same thing goes with this category.
Yeah, it's good. My next one is
Are you on number 4 or number 5?
Well, my number 5 was the prioritize
so you've had
each
15
other.
sub-points and...
I have 2 more written down. So whatever that means to you. My next point, key point, is a funny word to use when you're married, is co-parenting. Yes. I've heard co-parenting a lot more from people who are divorced.
Yeah, we did have this conversation.
That now we're, they're divorced, so now they have to co-parent, or they're dropping off kids and stuff like that. So
I think this needs to be a whole topic later, but let's get a little
probably all of
this.
I would say we need to bring sex up as next podcast too. Just that way, if they want to listen and know more or not listen, stay tuned for the next one. But back to co-parenting. So I think, again, I don't know if the audience all has kids, but if you have frequent enough sex, you might become parents. Our kids know that.
That was a good one.
Our kids know that mom and dad are on the same team, and I think because of that, it helps our marriage because we know we're on the same team. However, we're not always on the same team, but I think there's that goes back to the open communication. There was another, the other night, you made a decision with the kids and then looked at me and was like, am I making the right decision here? And I will back you up in front of them, but there's times hey, mom and dad are going to go talk, and then we come back and we decide. So I think just the way we co-parent, but in a marriage, helps, not just the kids, because it's not a parenting podcast. It's, we know that, you and I, there's security that I have, that I'm not we have both have different upbringings, different, things that we've talked about along the years that we're still practicing on our kids. We're not parent experts, but I know in my marriage that we're on the same team and we're going to have each other's back. Like, it's the equal effort that you're 100% in and I'm 100% in. And when we have those rough days, like, we're losing it. Like, we kind of can tag each other in and out. Like, hey, take 5. I think our friends even say they use the word watermelon.
Yeah.
Is that, like, I love it. Like, watermelon. And then they know, like, that person's out. And then, you know, dad might be out and mom's in because they need a break. But they're still going to be that uniformed front of whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
And, so that's why I said co-parenting. But, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that that's really solid. And I think, you know, what I would say to that is in our family, we're outnumbered. So we have to have each other's backs or they're going to overrun us. We were outnumbered
with our first pregnancy with twins. But it was just, we never had the 2-on-1 experience. Yeah. Like, we had 2 babies at once. So we kind of jumped into that, like, both of us fully in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, I say that in jest. Like, we are outnumbered, and so we have to have each other's backs. And so, because if it becomes really, really drastically unfair and lopsided if we didn't have each other's backs. If, like, because the kids still try this, like, oh, mom said no, I'm going to go ask dad stuff.
They do it right in front of us. It's hilarious. It's like...
I heard one of our kids do it literally tonight as I was setting up everything for the podcast.
But it, like,
I had already given him an answer.
My heart that I know that you're going to be like, if mom said that, then that's what we're doing. Like, right. Or, you know, you're not doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that...
You're not going to undercut me.
Right. Co-parenting, the word co-parenting has this negative connotation to it. It's often heard and coined in divorced families. You're co-parenting.
Or that you have to, like,
well,
have to co-parent with this person, and I don't want to, but in marriage you get to.
and I get where it comes from, and I can understand why, but the fact is like, it's not like as a married couple we're parenting and they're co-parenting if they're divorced. Like, that's not, like, we're still co-parenting. Yeah. We have different styles of parenting. God made each of us differently. And so if we are different, there's no way that parenting is an individualized, like, thing of, and I mean that in the aspect of, like, we are not the same in parenting. And so we have to co-parent because we're doing it differently. Yeah. And so we have to back each other up. And that means sometimes for me, I got to step back and let you take the lead and vice versa, because I may want to do it differently, but if something's working, by all means, like, we just got to roll with it. And so yeah. And to go back really quickly to something that you said a minute ago, you were saying, like, I asked you if I was making the right decision. I want to kind of tell that story real quick because I wouldn't normally do that, because I asked you that in front of the kids. Yeah. And I wouldn't normally do that. It was a super minor thing. Like, it really wasn't a big deal, but I had made a decision and I was kind of sticking to it. We were at a birthday party. Our kids were at a birthday party. They had already eaten, like, they were playing. They came back. One of them came back and just got a juice to, like, go ahead and have on his own. I'm like, dude, you already had one. Like, you don't need another one. He, like, kind of rolls eyes. I was like, no, you can go get water. If you're thirsty, go get some water. You don't need a second juice. We're going to be going home and going to bed. Like, it's not necessary. And then, like, he asked you about it. I think he asked you about it right in front of me. And you were like, well, I don't know what happened, but I was like, I already said no. Like, I interrupted and I was like, no, I already told you no. You don't need to, like, go to mom and ask her. That's ridiculous. And then that's when I turned to you and was like, am I making too big of a deal about this? That was my demeanor in it. Like, I really, like, didn't care that much.
Which would have given me permission to, like, say, okay, you're going to have the juice. But I said, well, dad said no. Right. And so you already had one. You're not missing out on one. Like, so it kind of showed him again, we're on the same page. Right. So I wouldn't do that often. In big circumstances, like big discussions. Like, if you're talking about, like, a big discipline issue, like, that's a private conversation. Yeah. It was a juice box. Like, I mean, like, get perspective. Like, but we do fill each other in a lot of times. Like, you know, because it's not always that we're both there. Right. Or have, like, both of us with one child. So, if, you know, whatever decisions we make, you know, I may be like, hey, just FYI, this is what's going on with this kid, and this is what I said, or this is what is expected, and this is what's happening. you know, and if you need to like speak into that or coach or whatever, but you're gonna, for the most part, be like, okay, got it. I'll take it from here or whatever. And that's why I think there's like the security in our marriage and less fights about the parenting, because it goes back to communication and all that. And that's why I used co-parenting. Just like lean into that, you know, you're married. That's great. You have two people getting to raise these kids in the same household. And that's a privilege these days with divorce statistics. And so I think that's a strength of ours and something I would encourage others to work on. Even though, like I said, this is more of a marriage podcast, but parenting affects their relationship too. Yeah. So do you have one more?
I technically have two more because I have a bonus one that I came up with. But
then you go, and then I have one.
Okay. My number 5 is true commitment. And so I struggled with how to like write this one, because I wanted to write faithfulness and I wanted to write trust, and I was like, yeah, but those can all be like broken over time, whether purposefully, whether accidentally, whatever, you know. I mean, I guess I don't mean accidentally, but like whether it just was, you know, not your best moment, you know, situations like that.
Other influences.
Exactly. Situationally, you know, you could be put in a tough situation, but I wrote it as true commitment, because although I've made my fair share of mistakes, my commitment to you has never changed. So I'm sure I've lost some trust over times. I'm sure, you know, that other things have happened, but my commitment has never changed, never wavered since the day that our vows were read. And so that is where I landed on this one, is true commitment. You can build on that. Like, you can't have 100% trust. It's going to get broken. You're going to fall short. There are other synonyms you could use to this word, but I think commitment is the one that you can start somewhere and keep building on that. Like, and that can stay steady. You can build the other things, the trust, off of the commitment. Yeah.
I'm going to listen to this back and write that down, and that would be my love letter from you.
Okay.
I love that.
You'll write it to yourself from me?
No,
is that what you're saying?
You can write it if you're lost for words. That was well said. Thanks, babe.
I'll have ChatGPT transcribe this podcast for you.
So true commitment, definitely to each other. And then my last thing, again, very practical, but something that we've found recently. We didn't always have this in our marriage, but to find community.
That's my bonus.
Oh, no, that's...
High five.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny as we like land the plane here together. Awesome. Because we, like I said, we didn't have that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. We were the youngest out of our friend group to get married. And then other friends like got married and had kids right away, and we waited a few more years. And so we were just like in and out of those, you know, a lot of people do that, whether you're married or a young adult. Like, you have these commonalities in high school and then maybe even in college, and then you get married and you're like, wait, this is a different season in life. And it was hard, and we had to figure things out a lot on our own. And so now, like almost 18 years into marriage, like, wow, we have our tribe and our community. And even though that's outside relationships, like, it strengthens our relationship, because we have good, healthy couples that we can talk about, that know me, know you. Mm-hmm. We know them. We can talk about our marriage and our family and parenting and like all the things, from the fun of, you know, game nights with them. So we have our own dates, but also like these group dates. I don't think we call them that, but
no, we don't call them group dates.
It sounds like when you're like courting each other, like not allowed to go out on a date, so we're gonna go on a group date.
No. Not that kind of situation, but no, it's they're just gatherings, like just getting together. I mean, shout out to that tribe. They know who they are, and you know, you're right. We didn't always have that. When we got married, we moved away 2,000 miles away to a place where we had nobody.
No friends, no family.
No friends,
Just
no
each
family.
other.
And so I think that kind of forced us to like build up all these things in our own marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that's the right path for everybody to do, but I think it kind of, forced us to do that. But it was also very lonely during that period of time. For like, collectively lonely. Like, I mean, we were always together and like literally 24/7. We owned a business that we ran together. So we were together 24/7. For most of that time, we only had one car. So we couldn't even like ride separately anywhere. And so, yeah, I think, getting back home to Florida, we gathered a community in our family first. And, that was good. Like, we kind of helped us to reestablish our roots. But, there's really only so far conversations with family can actually go. I mean, they know a lot about you, so it's hard to really get true opinions from family, true advice sometimes. They're always looking out for your best, but
they might show a little, like, not favoritism, but like a little one-sided, like if it's my family and I'm saying something, they might be like more on my side. And even with these girlfriends, it's not like, oh yeah, and I don't like husband bash or anything. I don't know, it's just this, I can be myself and realize I can talk to these two other couples that we just do life with now.
They don't necessarily have a vested interest in your side of the situation. Right. And I don't mean this negative towards any family either, but like if you're talking with one of them about something, or we're collectively talking, they have a vested interest in our marriage succeeding as two of us being one. Not like, oh, Julie's right in this or Thomas is right in this. It's not about that. And so, for me, that was a big deal, a big jump in to put myself out there with people. Like, I mean, that tribe will know and will surely remember if they listen back to this, when I sat in the group and said like, hey, I usually don't come to these things because I really am not looking towards making any more friends. I mean, I'm so thankful for them.
It was a small group.
Yeah, a small group from church, and I'm really thankful that they're all in our lives. Yeah. I couldn't see our lives without them now. It's great to have that group, and I mean, find a community of people that can come alongside you in your time of need, and not just that, but can come alongside you to kind of help keep the momentum rolling for you in your marriage. They can help build you up and help you succeed.
I mean, I think that's what we're doing with like our marriage coaching clients. I don't want to call them clients because they're our community too. Yeah. And so we've found that locally and want that for our listeners to, do life with other healthy married couples that, when we went through these hospital things or whatever, there was meals coming and just stuff showing up on our doorstep, and you don't have to like host them all the time. They're just there, and having that support strengthens us and our family. But if you don't have that, or you don't have that yet, or it's not the right, time and season, if you're like when we first started and we were the first ones in this group, or this, being married and all the other ones were single, that's just kind of why we're like passionate about being marriage coaches, because we get to come alongside people and give a male and female perspective together on our Zoom calls with them and check-ins, and they're local, they get to come over and have dessert or something, but now like we get to talk to people all over the United States, and I love that. And so yeah, I love that we had the same one.
Yeah, worked out nicely.
Good job.
Nobody's gonna believe that we didn't sit next to each other and plan it out.
No, I promise.
I literally told her before we started, don't try to cheat off my paper. So awesome. I mean, this has been really fun. I'm glad we got back on and did this. I hope everyone else enjoyed this episode as well. It's a little longer than we normally go for. But we had a lot to say. We've been out of it for a little while, so obviously, we're going to come back with a little bit of a longer one. They can push pause though.
Yeah, next time if the podcast table is covered with Legos, we'll just build while we're talking.
Yeah.
We'll have no excuse.
Exactly.
You'll hear us soon.
Exactly. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure if it's your first time, go check out our website, schedule a call with us. We'd love to actually sit with you, whether that's virtually or in person if you're local to us, and help you with your marriage as well. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you find us on social media @MarriagePuzzle, and we'll see you next time.